I'm almost 29 years old, I live at home, and I hate it. But not every stay-at-home son fits the stereotype. Some of us aren't freeloaders. We're trapped. And even if some of us do give up, I get it. This male loser epidemic isn't just personal, it's global. So here's my story. Society in general likes to make a lot of assumptions about us stay-at-home sons. They've developed this stereotype reminiscent of the World of Warcraft South Park episode. They think, oh, you're just a lazy freeloader, you're a neet, you're too scared to grow up. It's usually women, boomers, or the guys who were lucky enough to get successful in life who think that the rest of us who couldn't achieve what they did were just too afraid to put in the work. They think we're all the same. Messy room, no job, no social life, just sit around playing video games all day. No goals, no ambitions. But the truth is a lot more nuanced than that, and every situation is unique. Many of us truly did try our best, and the situation we're in feels more like a prison than a choice. And that's where my story comes in. Yes, I'm a loser. I'm a stay-at-home son, actually stay-at-home grandson, but I'm not a neet, and I try my ass off in life. So I've been living in the same room in the same house since I was 7 years old, except for a 1-year break when I was 18 when I went to go live in an anarchist trap house. But that's a story for another time. I don't enjoy the situation, but it is what it is. I grew up with my grandparents because my parents were unable to raise me. In 2018, my grandpa, the man who raised me like a father, passed away. And he left my grandma and I in a very difficult predicament. We've got this house. It's not huge, but it's not small. It's got 3 floors, spiraling stone staircases, and it's on a 2-acre property filled with flammable trees on an extremely steep 30-degree angle. It has always been a pain in the ass to maintain. And Grandpa was always the one who took on the bulk of that responsibility. I helped here and there, but having been a full-time student in college at the time, having a full-time job, and now having a full-time business, it's always been difficult, if not impossible for me, to take on everything that a retired man could do. So Grandma and I have had to learn how to seek out assistance and delegate tasks. And with my entrepreneurship and business management experience, I'm fairly adept at prioritizing and managing time. My grandma is 78 years old. 50 years older than me. She's in the early stages of dementia, and it seems to be getting worse every day. The spiraling stone staircases, the steep, treacherous hill. In many ways, it's like a death trap for an old woman that loves to go and water her garden and tend to her flowers. Not only that, but this is an intensely fire-prone area, and we've been evacuated multiple times in the last 6 years. And if not for me, she wouldn't have been prepared. In fact, she wouldn't have even known to evacuate in the first place. And last year, something happened that was very difficult for me to come to terms with. She was diagnosed with dangerously high blood pressure, and for the first time in our lives, Grandma wasn't perfectly healthy. She wanted to do things a natural way. I did everything I could to help her do that. I found all the herbs, all the foods, encouraged her to drink more water, to quit drinking caffeine, to do all the right things to treat her high blood pressure naturally. And none of it worked. But I did it out of love. And it was very difficult to convince her to go on medication, but I eventually did it. Now, she relies on me to remind her to take her medication every day. I have an alarm set, and she has forgotten to take it before when she asked me to let her try and remember it herself. So you can kind of think of this as an example of a nuanced situation where a stay-at-home son or male loser is more than meets the eye. And it's like this for a lot of us. In many ways, I'm more like a full-time live-in caretaker than a freeloader. And that's how the rest of our family sees it too. Now, it hurts that society thinks I'm a loser, but if that's how society feels about me keeping my grandma safe and healthy, then they can go fuck themselves. So not only am I a full-time business owner, but I have a lot of hidden duties that kind of go unacknowledged by the rest of society. I haven't really mentioned this yet, but being a stay-at-home offspring is kind of a family tradition in a way. My mom has severe mental illness, schizoaffective disorder, one of the worst mental illnesses you could possibly have, a combination between bipolar and schizophrenia, and she's been living in this house with us for the last 10 years. She hasn't attempted to get a job. She hasn't attempted to better her life. We constantly have to remind her to take her medication. She's constantly acting out. She has horrible hygiene. Her room is a mess and a fire hazard. But Grandma tries to get her to pull her weight by helping her do work around the house a couple days a week. And when they do, there is a lot of bickering. And I've seen some scary things going on. During one of my mom's insane monologues talking to herself, I heard her mention something about having the deed to the house and being a homeowner. And one day, I saw her making a gun motion behind Grandma's head. I could not believe what I was fucking seeing. If I wasn't here to act as a witness, to keep my mom in check, God knows what would happen. Well, what if I get a phone call from my mom someday if I'm living a state away and I hear,
"Oh, Grandma fell down the stairs. She's bedridden now. I need you to come help me."
Meanwhile, how the hell would I know if she pushed her down or if she just fell? And they bicker all the time when she's working for her. And I swear to God, it feels like the only reason that it doesn't escalate to an extreme degree is because of my presence. And Grandma likes to stand right at the top of the stairs with my mom just about 3 feet away. On top of acting as a guard dog of sorts, I also provide emotional support in many ways. Grandma, if not for me, really wouldn't have anyone to talk to. She has very little social life. Ever since COVID, she's just been sitting at home. She stopped going to church. It's really sad. But every day, I spend at least an hour or two talking to her about various topics. I watch videos with her. I watch the news with her. We make dinner together. We have little discussions about current events. And somehow she forgets to eat and drink sometimes. And I want her to stay as healthy as possible. She's got to remember to eat a balanced diet, protein so she's not anemic. She had low iron content in her blood. And there have been times where she's forgotten to pay bills. There are times when things just get swept under the rug and don't get done, like important car maintenance or appliances that need to be replaced. Things that she used to be really on top of and that I had faith in her for are now getting neglected. And it's not just the dementia. There is a heavy Facebook addiction. Facebook is taking over boomers' lives. And I'm doing as much as I can to help her manage what used to be second nature for her. And the worst part is, I'm the only one. No one else in the family is stepping up. People are dying left and right. They're sick, they're poor, they're needy, they're addicts, they're in and out of jail, they're losing their minds. The nearest family members live 3 hours away, and they're dealing with so many of their own problems, living paycheck to paycheck, working 80 hours a week, barely having time to do anything. We don't even see each other anymore. My uncle, her son, he's lived in the Seattle area for the last 20 years. We only see him a handful of times a year. He only stays for a few days. Grandma's siblings, they've all either died or live in other states. The only one who's not bedridden and still of sound mind lives all the way in Texas. The sad truth is, I'm the only one. Now, this is where people love to chime in with,
"You're almost 30, bro. Just move out."
but here's what they don't get, and I wish wasn't true. Even if I wanted to leave, the only place where I can think of that has even close to affordable rent is 5 hours away. And even if I could afford to move away, and I gave up all my hopes and dreams of my business, and I went and worked a wage slave 9-to-5 job, I would be abandoning my grandmother and this property to a slow decline or worse. In case you don't already know, over the last 5 years, I've built up my own small business starting with $400 from nothing, grinding and grinding from the ground up. I have spent months gathering all the permits, the licenses, the local ties to a variety of shops in the area that I supply. And those connections that I made on my own without anybody's help, they're not exactly portable. If I were to move away, not only would I have to get all of the permits and licenses all over again, it may not be financially feasible anymore for me to supply those shops. Because once you start having to pay for shipping costs for large deliveries when you don't have economies of scale, the margins shrink to pennies, and it no longer is worth the time. So yeah, I could shut it all down and throw away the last 5 years of hard work and grinding just to get some menial job I'm highly overqualified for, working 60 to 80 hours a week just to barely get by, doing a job that I hate, feeling unbearable envy towards the people that were able to make it and escape from the matrix online. Or I could stay here and do my duty as a grandson and take one last shot at my dream without having to walk away from everything I care about. And that's where this YouTube channel comes in. This YouTube channel is my last-ditch effort at building something in my life that will make it worth living. Because the business alone does not provide anywhere near enough income to survive in today's economy. If you can relate to this message, please give this video a like so it can spread further and help dissolve the assumptions that society makes about stay-at-home sons. Now, a lot of people think that us male losers and stay-at-home sons just kick back and relax, gaming and drinking and smoking and just wasting our lives away. But for me and many others, that is nowhere near the case. I gave up all of my 20s on a grind. Social life, friends, fun, free time. I barely even dated. Set that all aside. And for what? So that I can have a life worth living and escape the trap that society wants to put us in. And many young men like me make those same sacrifices, even though everyone else just assumes we're just fucking around. They make us feel like losers, but not because we are ones, but because we've taken on the burdens of an adult, but for zero reward. You can be like me, give up everything, sacrifice 10 years of your life, no fun, no friends, just work, work, work. And there you are, hitting 30, and what do you have to show for it? Nothing but failure and misfortune. And that is what leads to burnout and giving up en masse. Because our society intentionally makes it extremely difficult for someone to escape the matrix they want to keep you in. Because they don't want more competition from small businesses. They want as many cheap wage slaves as they can have and have all the negotiating power when it comes to how much abuse you're willing to accept. I understand people who give up, but I haven't given up. And I tell the full story about all of that with intense raw emotion in the video that I'm going to link at the end of this one, about how luck plays the majority of the role in success. There are so many young men across the world that are breaking down and snapping under the burden of the expectations placed upon them by a society that expects us to achieve as much as our forefathers could with a fraction of the opportunities. In a time when the cost of living and survival has never been higher, the male loser epidemic isn't about laziness, at least not always. It's about burnout and unrealistic expectations. They take away all of the support and all the reward that young men used to get for working hard and expect us all to still have the same level of motivation. Even though the ability for young men to succeed in life has been intentionally handicapped, they still automatically think that we're all privileged and that if we don't succeed,
That's all your fault.
what kind of fantasy world are they living in? They pull the rug out from under us, kick us when we're down, and piss on our face and tell us it's raining. Sure, there are many men who have given up and settled for the hikikomori lifestyle and just live off the support of other people and make no attempt to do anything with their lives. And I completely understand why they do. But then there are all these guys that are like me, that are trying their damned hardest and have always tried their hardest, but we're stuck, isolated, and exhausted. So no, I'm not laying down to rot, but I understand why others do. I've got 1 year till I turn 30, and I'm not sure I can face my 30s, but I'm going to take that 1 year, and I'm going to try one last thing to build a life worth living through content creation, through business, connections, and community. A community of like-minded people. And maybe one day, in the not-too-distant future, we all can finally have a purpose. If you're in a similar situation, stuck, invisible, trying your hardest, you're not alone. I have sacrificed everything to try and build a life worth living, but sometimes hard work just isn't enough. If you've ever felt like the game is rigged no matter how hard you try, check out this next video. It's about why success is mostly luck and why the grind set is a scam.